Today, the bombshell review into former Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews and his wife's car crash. A fiery smash, a car ploughs through a Melbourne barbershop. Worrying levels of forever chemicals found in Sydney water, the saga reignited. The former TV star spends the night behind bars. Plus the latest on the Trump shooter probe. And the closest we've ever been, see the stunning space flyby. Tuesday, the 17th of September, 2024. Good morning and welcome to Today Early News. First this morning, a bombshell review into a crash involving former Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews and his wife has alleged there was a major police cover-up. The 36-page assessment alleging the couple's SUV was travelling at speed and on the wrong side of the road when it hit and seriously injured a teenage cyclist in 2013. Andrews has maintained they came to a complete stop and turned right from a stationary position just moments before being T-boned by the bike. The review claiming this version of events is deeply flawed. A car has gone through the front of a Melbourne barbershop before flames erupted early this morning. Residents near the building in Daylesford were evacuated as firefighters battled the suspicious blaze. No one was hurt and police are still investigating. A woman who allegedly lost control of her vehicle has ploughed through the front yard of an inner West Sydney home, smashing a brick pillar in the driveway. 4 occupants were inside the vehicle in Lewisham, but no one was hurt. The driver is now being questioned by police. Andrew O'Keefe will face court today after spending the night behind bars in Sydney in what's been a tumultuous few days for the former TV star. Ruth Wynne-Williams has more.
Andrew O'Keefe was arrested in Sydney's east for breaching bail, triggering yet another investigation into his conduct after being taken from a property in Sydney to hospital over the weekend where he was treated for a drug overdose. Reporting for bail, he was taken into custody. Police say they found drugs in a vehicle that was parked nearby. The former TV presenter has been in and out of court over the past few months, facing domestic violence and drug charges. On each occasion, the man has been allowed to walk free. He is behind bars here. We'll see him before Waverley Court.
Witnesses in court have described how the man behind the wheel of a car involved in the deadly Victorian pub crash appeared to be wasted after suffering a diabetes episode. William Swale claimed he didn't receive any phone warnings of his low blood sugar levels before ploughing into the beer garden of a Daylesford pub, killing 5 people. Friends have also described his behaviour as strange in the days leading up to that crash. He'll return to court today. Just one day on from a second assassination attempt on US President Donald Trump, a man has now been charged. New footage showing the moment suspect Ryan Routh is arrested, filmed on body cameras worn by police.
Take 2 steps to your right! Back. Driver! Walk straight back! Keep walking! Keep that long.
For more, let's go live to US correspondent Lauren Tomasi at the Trump International Golf Course. Lauren, good morning. Routh has made his first appearance in a US federal court.
He has, Alex. Good morning to you. And Ryan Routh was shackled by both his hands and feet as he made that first initial court appearance before a magistrate here just 10 minutes down the road from the Trump International Golf Course. He right now is facing 2 charges, including possession of a firearm while a convicted felon and possession of a firearm with an obliterated serial number. Now, of course, neither of those charges relate directly to Donald Trump, but prosecutors expect that there will be more charges to come, but those 2 on their own already carry a maximum penalty of 20 years behind bars in this attempted assassination, including that Ryan Routh's car had stolen number plates on it, and here at the Trump International Golf Course, his mobile phone data was pinging for some 12 hours before this incident. Prosecutors and police both believing that he may have been lying in wait for former President Donald Trump. This morning, the local sheriff here in West Palm Beach giving an update to the press, discussing how it was the actions of those Secret Service members and also a witness which really helped them get Ryan very quickly.
Had we just turned on blue lights and he would have taken off, we would have had to pin him and crash him on I-95. But I'll say this, it was probably the highest profile stop this sheriff's office has ever made. We were stopping the man who was involved in an assassination attempt on the highest profile target on the planet.
Today, the acting Secret Service director has arrived here to West Palm Beach. He's been doing a walkthrough of Donald Trump's golf course behind me here and is expected to meet with the former president a little later on this afternoon. The current president, Joe Biden, condemning this attempted assassination and also saying that the Secret Service needs more help. But meantime, Donald Trump has really been pointing the finger at both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. In a post to X this morning, he said the rhetoric, lies, has taken politics in our country to a whole new level of hatred, abuse and distrust. Because of this communist left rhetoric, the bullets are flying and it will only get worse. As to what happens next for Donald Trump and his campaign, we don't know how his security measures will adjust, but he is due back on the campaign trail in Michigan in 24 hours. Alex.
Lauren, thank you. Independent water testing has found record levels of potential cancer-causing forever chemicals in New South Wales waterways. PFAS chemicals flowing into the Blue Mountains Medlow Dam have been detected at levels more than 50 times higher than Australian drinking water standards, higher than authorities previously admitted. A pipeline from the dam, which supplies water to almost 50,000 people, has been closed since August 28. More than half of young people in Australia are in support of banning those under the age of 16 from social media. New data finding it is the biggest contributor to loneliness. Nearly 60% of 16 to 24-year-olds are in favour of raising the minimum age, with 55% crediting feelings of isolation to the apps. Experts are now likening the health impacts of chronic loneliness to, quote, smoking 15 cigarettes a day. The housing spat in Parliament continues today. The Coalition standing firm on their proposed scheme to allow Aussies to dip into their superannuation to buy a home. Today, Federal Politics reporter Liz Daniels has more. Good morning, Liz. The opposition says it could save the budget $1 billion.
That's right, Alex, and most of it is said to come from savings in Commonwealth. Rent assistance, cash. The Coalition says the government wouldn't need to spend if it allowed people to access their superannuation to buy a new home. The Coalition took this policy to the last election, promising to allow first home buyers to draw on up to $50,000 of their super to get into the market. Today it will double down on that policy, releasing these new costings. It is, as it argues, against Labor's solution, which the government has put to the Senate, trying to get two key housing policies through this week. One is a shared equity scheme with the government and the other is a build-to-rent scheme. The debate on how to solve the housing crisis will continue, Alex, right up until the next election.
Liz, thank you. Incoming laws will soon ban parking ranges from issuing ticketless fines after councils raked in $155 million last year. The New South Wales government now stepping up to prevent unsuspecting drivers from getting stung without the chance to dispute the penalties. Legislation will be introduced this month requiring rangers to issue a notice to a fined car. Today's top sports stories. Bulldogs fly Josh Addo-Carr has been summoned to the NRL Integrity Unit to explain his 2 positive roadside drug tests. Speculation is now rife. The Fox could be sacked over the offence, but the club's GM, Phil Gould, says it's too early to make a call on his Canterbury career.
At the end of the day, what will happen is that I'll come up with a decision on what I think the future of Josh Addo-Carr and the club should be as a partnership, and I'll take that to the board and discuss it with the people that count. They may or may not take my recommendation. They may have another point of view. We'll sit down and discuss it, but at the end of the day, we'll do what we think is in the best long-term interest of the club. It's as simple as that, and all the players understand that.
While Addo-Carr maintains his innocence, he did accept a $682 fine and 3-month suspension from driving. The Swans are just one win away from the AFL Grand Final, but on Friday they come up against a team that's bested them for 8 years. Most recently, Port Adelaide humiliated Sydney by 112 points. Midfielder Chad Warner believes he has unlocked the key to their success.
I think just their hit and contested possession, and like I said before, their pressure is probably one thing that I guess has got us in the past, and we're really going to have to look to fix this Friday night.
The Swans have a big selection call to make before the prelim final, deciding whether Taylor Adams will replace injured skipper Callum Mills. Let's have a look at the weather across the country. Temperatures around the country today. Brisbane mostly sunny, 24 degrees. Sydney sunny and 22 the top, 19 in Canberra. Partly cloudy and 17 for Melbourne. Hobart 14, cloudy. Mostly sunny and 19 for Adelaide. Perth much the same with 27 the top. Darwin showers and 32 degrees. Straight ahead on Today Early News, the latest on the deadly floods inundating parts of Europe. Plus drivers furious after hundreds of cars targeted. And a glimpse of unexplored space territory right across Australia. This is Today Early News on 9. And when you're out the door, we're streaming on 9 now. Disgraced BBC presenter Huw Edwards, one of the most recognisable faces on British television, and the man who announced the Queen's death has been spared jail for making indecent images of children. Nine's Jessica Mildred was at the sentencing hearing in London.
Well, former BBC News presenter Huw Edwards' shocking fall from grace is now complete. Sentenced to 6 months in jail but wholly suspended, so he won't do any actual jail time, but he will be added to the sex offender registry. We heard today shocking details in the court about his crimes, which he pled guilty to in July. He pleaded guilty to making 41 indecent images of a child. We heard that in 2018 a man reached out to him on Instagram. That man is now a convicted pedophile and over several years sent him 41 indecent images of a child. Huw Edwards sent him money as gifts. They exchanged messages over several years, sometimes wishing each other a happy Christmas. Through his lawyer, Huw Edwards apologised for his actions, saying he deeply regrets them and regrets hurting his family and loved ones. The BBC continues to try to claw back earnings they gave to Edwards after he was arrested. When he walked here from Westminster Magistrates Court, despite that apology inside, he had nothing to say to the people who were once his former colleagues. In sentencing, the magistrate said that he was particularly vulnerable to an attack in prison, and that contributed to why he didn't give him any actual jail time. The magistrate also noted that his reputation is now in tatters, almost certain Huw Edwards will never work in television again.
3 Victorian teens have faced court in Queensland after allegedly travelling more than 1,500 kilometres up the east coast in a tri-state crime spree. The group accused of stealing a BMW in an armed robbery in Carindale in Brisbane South, leaving an elderly victim terrified.
His gloves, black clothes, black shoes, and he opened my door and he said, "Get out from car." I did not go out, but he showed me knife.
They were kept in custody over the weekend. Police have been liaising with Victorian Police to find out whether there have been other offences committed from Victoria through New South Wales to Queensland.
The teens charged are not old enough to drive. 2 boys aged 14 and 15 and a 14-year-old girl. Dog owners in South Australia whose pet causes death or serious injury could face a $25,000 fine under new laws set to be introduced next week. Owners who deliberately encourage dog attacks face a steep $100,000 fine or 4 years in jail. This comes as violent dog attacks are on the rise. 1,200 reported incidents in the past year, with 503 of those sending victims to hospital. At least 16 people are dead after floods swamped Central and Eastern Europe, with the worst yet to come. For more, let's go live to Europe correspondent Hannah Sinclair. Good morning, Hannah. The streets of Poland have been left a muddy mess.
Good morning, Alex. Yes, as the water starts to subside in some areas, we're starting to see the devastation these floods have left behind across Central and Eastern Europe. The widespread flooding has impacted parts of Poland, Austria, Romania and the Czech Republic, turning historic and beautiful places into disaster zones. Streets have been left covered in mud and debris, while cars, homes, roads and bridges have been washed away. Rescue efforts are still ongoing to try and get people to safety, as hundreds of thousands of people have been evacuated to higher ground as Storm Boris unleashed the worst flooding across the region in more than 2 decades. The floods have killed at least 16 people so far, including one firefighter during a rescue operation, while others remain missing. Authorities are warning there may be worse yet to come, with river levels still continuing to rise, while other communities are focusing on the massive clean-up job ahead. Alex.
Thank you, Hannah. Around 100 vehicles have been damaged in Sydney's southwest after a serial tyre slasher targeted the vehicles while residents slept. The hooded bandit using a Stanley knife to unleash on cars at Kingsgrove around 2:30 a.m. His actions costing the community a collective $40,000.
All the cars around the corner were done, 10 around there. Up the road, Margaret Street, probably another 40 cars. Then Vivian Street, probably another 20 cars. Pretty disgusting and putrid act.
That person remains at large. Crews have started to dismantle an iconic WA vessel after it was hit by a cargo ship. The mast of the Lewin was one of the first parts to be removed after it was struck while docked at Fremantle more than 2 weeks ago. The operation is expected to take place over the next couple of days. Looking at the markets, a good day on Wall Street. The Dow Jones is up 195 points and the S&P 500 is also in the green. At home, the All Ords closed on a high yesterday, gaining 17 points. In London, the FTSE ending 5 points higher. Commodities, gold is $2,581 an ounce, silver is at 30, oil $71 a barrel. Coming up on Today Early News, Sea Eagles star ready to shoulder expectations in a semi-final against the Roosters. Plus, a Port Adelaide great reacts to coach Ken Hinkley's hefty $20,000 fine from the AFL. And the closest we've ever been to the rocky planet. Welcome back to Today Early News. Our top stories direct from the 9 newsroom this Tuesday. A review into a crash involving former Victoria Premier Daniel Andrews and his wife has alleged that their SUV was travelling at speed when it hit a cyclist. A car has smashed through the front of a Melbourne barbershop and burst into flames, with police now treating it as suspicious. And former TV star Andrew O'Keefe has spent the night behind bars in Sydney after allegedly being found with drugs in his car while on bail. Sport and Sea Eagles captain Daylesford Evans has praised teammate Tom Trbojevic for his brave performance against the Bulldogs on Sunday. The Manly fullback required 2 pain-killing injections just to get through the game, but has declared he'll be right to go next week.
We obviously get a lot looking around the locker room and seeing him there, but, you know, I think he did a fantastic job, and, you know, we always expect Tom to just light it up no matter what. So any time he plays an average game, which is still better than a lot of other fullbacks, we're all wondering why, you know. But he did really well on the weekend, and he's only going to be better for the run next week.
The Sea Eagles take on the Roosters in a sudden death semi-final at Allianz Stadium in Sydney on Saturday. Port Adelaide great Kane Cornes has launched a passionate defence of the club's coach Ken Hinkley after he was fined $20,000 for his outburst at Hawthorn players. Now, speaking on Nine's Footy Classified, Cornes says it's unbelievable that the AFL doesn't think Port is contrite.
Ken Hinkley's honest, puts his hand up, admits fault. I apologise to the boys. I'm assuming he's saying I apologise to the Hawthorn players. You're right. Press conference, media the next day. I know he's not paying this fine himself, but the coach...
No, that's another thing.
So he is paying the fine?
The club has been fined, but Ken Hinkley has gone to the club and said, this was me, I need to pay this because it's my fault.
That's another admission that he did the wrong thing.
I agree.
And he wants to now move on and put it past him and move on to Friday night.
A Power fan led the charge to pay off Hinkley's fine, a GoFundMe page, receiving close to $6,000 in donations before that was deleted. Western Bulldogs vice-captain Ellie Blackburn will miss the rest of the AFLW season with a significant mid-foot injury. The 29-year-old was carried off the field in the dying moments of her team's loss to West Coast and needs surgery. Meanwhile, Eloise Jones will watch from the sidelines as the Crows shoot for a record-extending fourth title after hurting her Achilles. Australia has a new women's #1 in Olivia Gadecki, the 22-year-old from the Gold Coast, climbing 64 places in the world rankings to a career-high 88, despite losing her first WTA final in Mexico. If Gadecki can hold onto this position until the Australian Open, it'll guarantee her automatic entry onto the main draw. Stay with us. Coming up, stunning new space pictures as we come the closest ever to one of the rocky planets. And it's time for today, but first your local weather forecast. This is Daily News, live on 9 and 9 now. Before we go above the clouds, let's go above the clouds. We can't forget some space news. Yes, these stunning photos coming in of the closest ever flyby of Mercury, the smallest and least explored rocky planet in our solar system. The time-lapse was taken by a spacecraft that's jointly managed by the European and Japanese space agencies. Cool. Let's have a look at the weather. Temperatures around the country. Brisbane, mostly sunny and 24 degrees. Sydney, sunny and 22 the top, 19 in Canberra. Partly cloudy and 17 for